Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's show. And today I'm going to talk about how I created my own TV show. And actually, it kind of just dropped in my lap. And, but I will not say that I did not create it because I absolutely, totally, completely created it. So let me know in the comments if you are watching live. If you're watching live, type in hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, type in hashtag replay. Okay. And today I want to actually share with you how, I created my own TV show where I absolutely had no intention of creating a TV show. So, how many of you would really like to know what are some of the tools that I used to create it? Let me know in the comments below if you would like to know the tools that I have used to create my own TV show, to create, publishing 7 books in just 3 years. Okay, so one of the things that I have been really good at is physically actualizing things. That means asking for things and having them show up. That is one thing that I am really good at. So you know one thing that I have consistently done over the years is that I have written down my targets. So, and I think I've shared it in other live streams as well, where, every New Year's Eve, I sit and write down my targets. And the thing about writing down your targets is that just go free flow. Don't judge that this is possible for me or this is not possible for me. Just start writing down things without any point of view. Like, it can be the most wildest, wackiest thing that you can think of, and just write it down. Hi, Susan, good to have you live. Okay. And so every New Year's Eve, I kind of sit down and I write out a lot of my targets. Okay. And what I found typically over the years was that practically everything that I used to write down, would show up. Like, I would actualize it. Okay. And that's a great thing, right? Whatever you ask for, it's showing up. That's something really great to occur, right? But here's the thing, there was no element of surprise to it. Like, I wanted to be surprised, I wanted to be delighted with some of the things that were showing up, right? So so this is where this whole story of how I created my own TV show kind of showed up. Okay, so if you are one of those people who have never done this, I would highly recommend that you get something called as a dream diary or something like that, and start writing down your targets. Like, if you wake up in the morning every single day and write down 10 new things that you would like to create, or 10 new asks that you have, that's like a really, really great thing to do every single day. Like, if you do 10 new things every day, then what happens is within like 10 days, you will have written down 100. Like, I always invite people to write down 100 things that they would like to create. Okay. So this is one of the things that I highly recommend people that they do. But I digress, because what I want to share with you is the tools that I used to create my own TV show. So this was I don't remember the year or whatever, and I was listening to Dr. Dane here, and he is the co-founder of Access Consciousness. And in Access Consciousness, one of the biggest tools that everyone uses is a question. So, being in question. And so Dr. Dane here, it was, I think, one of a free radio shows or something like that. And he kind of mentioned something around creation. And the way that I heard it is, what would you like to create your life as? Okay. And so, what I started doing was that every single day when I woke up, I started asking this question: what would I like to create my life as? What would I like to create my life as? So, type it in the comments, please. What would I like to create my life as? Okay. Now, I started asking this question and I did not look for an answer. Like I would be in this question and I would just be aware of the energy that showed up. Okay? So I invite you to do this. Okay. First of all, type in the question in the comments. So, people who, so it's like when you write down something, you are activating an energy. Okay. So write down this question in the comments. What would I like to create my life as? Okay. And now I'd like you to do a little exercise, okay? I want you, and obviously, if you're driving or something like that, don't do it. But if you are sitting somewhere and you can take, say, 2 or 3 minutes, then I invite you to do this. Just close your eyes, everyone. And I'm going to speak this question, and I want you to just be with this question. Okay? So, what would I like to create my life as? What would you like to create your life as? What would you like to create your life as? What would you like to create your life as? What would you like to create your life as? What would you like to create your life as? Now, don't look for an answer. Just be with this question. What would you like to create your life as? What would you like to create your life as? What would you like to create your life as? Now, very gently, just open your eyes and be here now. Now, would anyone like to share what opened up for you while you were listening to me speak this question? Like, just type it in the comments, okay? So basically, I would just, be this question every day when I woke up. I would be this question: what would I like to create my life as? And then when I was being this question, there was this energy that would show up every time that I was being this question. There was this energy. And this energy, when I tapped into this energy, it was light, it was expansive, it just made me smile, right? And so I would just be this question, I would just tap into that energy. Okay. And the thing that I started doing was that whenever that energy showed up in my life, in other areas of my life, and if I had to take an action at that point of time, I would take an action. Okay, so for example, maybe I see an ad. Maybe I see an ad for a restaurant. Okay, and when I look at that ad, that restaurant, and I kind of I I see that energy show up. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go to that restaurant and I'm going to go for dinner or lunch to that restaurant. That's what I mean, So when you start asking this question, right? And that energy, you become familiar with that energy, right? And then that energy shows up in different areas of your life. Start taking action whenever that energy shows up. So I go for dinner to that place, or someone texts me and invites me to go somewhere, and again I perceive that energy and I'm like, oh yeah, it's this energy, okay, let me take action on it, right? So I had been kind of being in this question for 2 3 months, and I did it consistently. I would wake up in the morning and I would be in this question: what would I like to create my life as, right? And these things started showing up, and I would start taking action on these things, right? And then I was going to go to India, and I was going to go to a little city in the center of India. And I had this thought that I should do classes when I go there. And that energy was again this same energy which shows up whenever I talk about what would I like to create my life as. So I said, okay, you know what? I want to do classes. Now, how do I create classes? Because I don't really know so many people. Okay. And what I did was that I had this thought in my head that I should contact this one person. Okay. She's a friend of mine. So I messaged her and I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to be coming to your town and I'll be there for a month and I'd love to do classes. And can you help me? Can you help me spread the word about these classes? Now I know that this person had a lot of contacts in media, like she knew a lot of reporters and things like that. So the thing at the back of my mind was that maybe she'll get me a few newspaper write-ups or something like that, right? So I land up in that place and I called her up and I said, hey, can you help me with this? So she said, yeah, definitely. I know the reporter of, I know someone in this newspaper and that newspaper, and we'll see if we can get you some write-ups over there. And then she just said, hey, by the way, I know this is a friend of mine. He's starting this new TV channel, and maybe I'll ask him to interview you. Get ask him to get a reporter to interview you as well. I said, okay, fine, whatever. I actually had no point of view about it, but I just said okay. So she calls me up one day and she said, hey, tomorrow can you come over to my place? She said, I won't be there, but someone will be there at home and this reporter will come and he will interview you tomorrow. And I said, okay, fine, I'll come. And I went to her place and the reporter came and we did a little interview. And then I noticed that he had a bad cold, right? So I asked him, I do healing, so do you mind if I do a little healing for you? And he said, sure. And so I did a short, like 10-15 minute healing for him. And immediately, his like all the choked feeling in his nose and all that dissipated, and I could see that he was breathing much more easily, right? And I was like, okay, fine, and he obviously he noticed it as well, right? And then I went somewhere to answer a phone call or something. When I came back, my friend's friend was there. The guy who is the owner of the TV station, he was there, and the two of them, they were having some kind of discussion between them. And uh, you know then he said, hey, we really liked the interview you did. And he said, we are looking we want to start a program on spirituality on our TV show, so would you be interested in doing it? And when he said that, I almost like fell off my chair. I was like, oh, what do you mean, what do you mean, kind of a thing. And when he offered that, it matched the energy that showed up, when I was asking about what would I like to create my life as. And so I ended up doing a TV show on that channel. And guess what the TV show was called? It was called The Nilofer Show. And you can go on YouTube and you can search out The Nilofer Show, and you'll find some of my clippings from that TV show there. So basically, what I started to realize was that when I started being this question every single day, what would I like to create my life as? Things started showing up in my life that were never a part of my list, of my targets. The targets that I used to write, when on every New Year's Eve, like being on TV, never. It was never a part of that, right? I published 7 books in 3 years. Writing a book, never a part of my list ever. Like, I've heard so many people, they will tell me, I want to write a book, I want to write a book. I never had this thing that I want to write a book. Never ever had it. I want to write a book. I published 7 books in 3 years, and actually 3 books in just 1 month. Like in 2015 of October of 2015, I published 3 books. These kind of things were never ever part of something that I had asked for. So this thing that I always had was that, okay, I ask for things and they show up, and now what? Because my asks were actually limited by my imagination, right? So they like my asks themselves were like a limitation, right? But when I started asking this question, what would I like to create my life as, a lot of amazing things started to show up in my life. Things that were like that never figured on my targets, or on my exercise that I did, whatever, all these things started to show up. And then what I started to do was that I started to use different variations of this question. Okay, like, what would I like to create my relationship as? So my relationship with my husband. And what I when I started was looking at that, in the beginning, it was all about, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, because all those things were coming up as what would I like to create. And at one point, I realized that I had no clue what I wanted in my relationship with my husband. And so I started asking this question, what would I like to create my relationship as? And what started to show up was that we started doing things together that we both loved doing. Like, one of the things we discovered was our love for adventure. And so we started doing all these adventure activities. We discovered that we both loved to be out in nature. So we would, go driving in the wadis. I live in the UAE, so wadis are these dry river beds. We started going trekking and hiking. We started driving in the desert. Like, we started doing these things that we enjoyed doing. We started going for camping. We actually started doing things as a family that we all enjoyed doing. And that created a totally different thing in our relationship, which was not there before. The other thing we started doing was we just started having fun with each other. We started giggling over things and going out for date nights and all kinds of fun stuff. That's what we started doing. Then, I started asking this question with my business. What would I like to create my business as? and and then after some time, it also was like, what would my business like to be? Because my business also had its own energy. And so, all these different ideas, different things started showing up. And every time it had that energy, which was like, what would I like to create my business as? Or what would my business like to be? When it had that energy, when it matched that energy, then we kind of started taking action on those things, right? What would I like to create my body as? So what would I like to create my body as? It created something really interesting. Like a few years ago, my brother, he started running, right? And he got really, really, really enthusiastic about running. And he was like, hey, you should run too, and blah, blah, blah. And because he said that to me, I attempted to run. I'll say that I attempted to run. And I would run a little and I would start getting this pain in my shins. And when I told him that, he said, oh, you've got shin splints, right? So I stopped, right? But when I started asking this question, what would I like to create my body as? Or what would my body like to be? Something really interesting occurred, was that suddenly I had this urge to run, right? And I remember it was winter here, so the weather is nice and cool, and I can really run in that time. And I started to run. And my son suggested an app that I could use called 0 to 5K or whatever. And I'm not saying that I was running continuously 5K, but what I found was that my stamina built up so that I could run, walk, and do 5K and then 10K and all kinds of amazing things with my body. The other thing which I started noticing was, what would I like to create my body as, or what would my body like to be as? Was that I started getting awarenesses. I started getting insights about things. I started, knowing things. I started perceiving things, which were totally like an expanded awareness. Because awareness is a function of your body, right? You see with your eyes, you feel with your, it's all like you have 700 senses in your body which give you awareness. And I started noticing that a lot of these senses started activating for me, right? So I had this, and the way it showed up was in enhanced awareness while I was facilitating people. So like while I was talking to people, I would get these awarenesses. I would just start speaking words and things like that, which would totally, hit the target of what was required to change that person and things like that, right? So I literally started using this question in every area of my life. And not only was I using this question in every area of my life, I was also sharing this question with everyone that I was talking to. I was sharing this question with every client that I was talking to, and even just, people, I would share it in my group classes and all kinds of things. And literally, I wrote this book called Create Your Life, which is based on this whole question. So you guys can go get my book on Amazon. It's called Create Your Life. And, I go a little bit more in depth with this question, right? So, what I'm trying to say is that this question connected me to this uh, um, field of infinite possibilities. And I started to kind of attract those infinite possibilities in my life. And they were all very, they were all not part of what I had asked for. But actually, when they showed up, it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I didn't even know that I wanted it, but then it is totally amazing, right? So, um, so I would like to invite you to use this question, right? Use this question, be this question every single day. And and just, without looking for an answer, without trying to put words to it, if you can be this question, be aware of the energy that shows up, and then start taking action in your life when it matches the energy that shows up when you ask this question, it's going to be just, it will just transform your whole life. So I kind of shared everything. If you guys have any questions, anything that you want me to talk about, I'm happy to do that. But basically, it is just this one question. Honestly, just this one question. And I'm not saying that, you're going to create a TV show once you start using this question, although you could. But what you will create is exactly what you always knew was possible but could never get to, right? So feel free to share your insights, what has opened up for you. Feel free to share any questions that you have around this. But honestly, it's not very complicated. It's really easy. It's just being this question. Now, one thing that I realized with sharing these questions with others is that people have a point of view around creation. And I had no idea how strong people's points of views are around creation. Because for me, like, creation is totally fun. It is totally awesome. And it's just something that I love doing. And it's I would also say it's pretty effortless for me, right? So I didn't realize that people had this stuff going on around creation until I shared this question with a few people, and they started to tell me, oh, we have this heavy energy shows up when we ask this question. I said, oh, that's interesting. I have never encountered that. And so, what I started to do with those people was that I started to clear the points of view that they had around creation. So, how many of you, have some strong points of views around creation? So, if you have, just type in strong in the comments so I know that you guys have some strong points of views around creation, and then we can clear those. Let me know in the comments if you have some strong points of views around creation. Okay, so I guess there's a little lag, so I can keep talking till then. So, what does creation mean to you? Let's release on that. What does creation mean to you? So, what does creation mean to you? I'm just doing it a few times, till I perceive the energy changes. So, I'm going to just do it for a few times. Okay, cool. So let's do a few releases around this question. So, what would you like to create your life as? I'm going to just release on that. What would you like to create your relationships as? I'm releasing on that. So, again, you're not really looking for an answer. You're just being the question. And what I am doing is that as I ask the question, whatever comes up for you, I do a release on that. Okay. What would you like to create your body as? What would you like to create your business as? What would you like to create your career as? Uh, what would you like to create your future as? And then if you are a student, so you could also add, what would I like to create my education as? So, I mean, just different versions of this question. You can use it for anything else that I've not spoken about here. And I'd love to know what opens up for you using these questions. And I'd also like to invite you to the Money Club for Nine. And this is literally a money club for $9 a month. And every month we do something called as 7 days of money energetic releases. So in these 7 days, I work energetically on every person who has signed up, and I work on money stuff to clear money blocks and to connect you with infinite possibilities with money. You also get like one live call with me every single month, and you can show up and you can ask me to facilitate you. And one of my superpowers is actually seeing people's energy, and I can see where the energy is stuck and what can be changed. So I would love to have you in Money Club for Nine. And thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And next week onwards, it's going to be 1 hour earlier. So it will be the same time for Europe, for India, for UAE, but for people in North America, it's going to be 1 hour earlier because you guys are going through time change. Europe went through the time change this week itself, so that's why it's already 1 hour earlier for you. So I hope you guys will join me next week also. And thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Bye.